Washington, D.C. has the highest illiteracy rate per capita in the country, the highest age rate per capita in the country, the highest rate of poverty per capita in the country. Now, why are all those things true? And it's not true for the part of D.C. that was retroceded back to Virginia, Arlington County, which was once part of Washington, D.C., and it's also not true of other neighboring counties. The reason it's true is because Washingtonians don't have power. They don't have the ability to even pass a budget without Congress approving it.
I mean, sure, we've had home rule for 30 years, which means that we can pass our own legislation, but our legislation goes straight to Capitol Hill, and they have a right to basically find ways to overrule our legislation. And they've never overtly said you can't pass this law, but what they've said is we're not going to give you money to fund this law.
The city can't spend its budget on its own. It has to make decisions considering what the Congress will do. And so there's a chilling effect.
I mean, a couple years ago, Senator Sam Brownback, a really conservative senator from Kansas, wanted to impose a flat tax on the district because he wanted it to be a laboratory for the idea for the rest of the country. He was like, well, if we're going to try a flat tax in the U.S., why not try it in the district first? Mm-hmm. That plays out in a lot of ways. It plays out in that sense that they actively work, they actively oppose things that the D.C. Council wants to do for district residents.
There was a referendum in Washington, D.C., in which every voter was entitled to vote yes or no on whether or not medical marijuana should be allowed in the District of Columbia.
The people voted, and it's not that Congress said we're going to forbid you from actually even pursuing this policy. They said we're not going to give you the money to actually count the votes.
There was a resolution passed preventing the government of the District of Columbia from using any money to inform the population the result of the referendum.
It was essentially them finding a way to say, we disagree with this, so we're not going to let you actually do it.
The only way we found out the result of the referendum was to go into federal court and have the courts inform Congress that that was unconstitutional.
On a daily basis, I'm more practically concerned about budget autonomy, like the district's ability to say, we raise these revenues and this is how we're going to spend them. We're not going to send our money to Congress and have Congress reappropriate it to us and tell us how to spend it.
And so the budget process in Washington, D.C. is thwarted. I mean, you have to actually develop a budget way in advance. Upwards of a year and a half to 2 years sometimes before the Congress acts. And who can budget that way? No one knows what their expenses are going to be, and so your budget and your programs are always off.
We are, in effect, the playthings of Congress. And we're a colony.
A lot of people call Washington, D.C. the last colony, the last American colony, right?
And so, yeah, there's a certain sense of occupation that I think we all live with and deal with, but, grudgingly accept.